The human found an alien child collapsing in the desert. What he did next silenced the stars. The sun was cruel in the desert. It burned everything under it. Hot wind moved across the sand like a wave of fire. Jack was driving his old truck across this empty land. The engine made a tired noise and dust covered the windows. He had been out here for hours, searching for nothing. He liked being alone. Then he saw something strange. At first, it looked like a pile of cloth or maybe a broken machine. But as he got closer, he hit the brakes. It wasn't cloth, it wasn't metal, it was a body. Jack stepped out of the truck slowly. The heat hit him like a wall. He covered his eyes and walked closer. It was small, like a child. But it wasn't human. Her skin was light blue, dry and cracked. Her silver hair was full of sand. Her arms were thin like sticks, and strange glowing marks ran across her shoulders. Her chest was moving, barely. She was alive. Jack looked around. There was no ship, no crash site, no signs of other aliens. Just this girl, half buried in the sand, shaking. She opened her eyes. They were bright gold, not yellow, glowing gold, like tiny suns. Her lips moved. She tried to speak, but no words came. Only a dry gasp. Jack didn't know what to do. What if she was dangerous? What if others were watching? But when she reached out her tiny hand toward him, he felt something strange in his chest. A pull, like his heart recognized her. He picked her up carefully. Her skin felt like warm stone. The second his hand touched her arm, something happened. A soft light passed from her to him. Strange glowing lines lit up his forearm, the same as hers. "What the hell?" Jack whispered. But the girl passed out again in his arms. He ran back to the truck and placed her gently on the passenger seat. He poured water into a cup and tried to give her a few drops. Her lips barely moved, but she swallowed it. That gave him hope. Jack turned the truck around. He had a small camp just 20 minutes away. It had shade, water, and a first aid kit. He pressed the gas pedal. The tires slipped in the sand, but the truck moved forward. As he drove, he kept looking at her. She looked peaceful, like someone who had been running for too long and finally stopped. But who was she? Where did she come from? And why was the sky above them suddenly too quiet? Jack reached his camp and pulled the truck under the shade. The desert sun was still high. He carried the girl to a soft mattress inside his small tent. He turned on the fan and placed a cool wet cloth on her forehead. She didn't wake up, but her breathing got better. Hours passed. Jack sat near her, unsure what to do next. He looked at the strange, glowing marks on his arm. They were fading slowly, like the light was going to sleep. Suddenly, the girl gasped and sat up fast, her eyes wide. She looked around, scared. Jack raised his hand slowly. "Easy. Easy. You're safe now," he said in a calm voice. She looked at him. Her mouth moved. Then she spoke, very soft, broken English. Where am I?" "You're in the desert." "Earth," Jack said, her eyes filled with tears. "They left me." "Who left you?" She shook her head. "Bad people hunt me." "You, not them?" Jack leaned forward. "No, I'm just a guy in the desert. You were dying. I helped." She looked at her arm, then at his. Her eyes widened again. "You touched me?" "Yes." "You carry the flame," she whispered. Before Jack could ask what that meant, the sky above shook. A loud, low sound filled the air. Jack stepped out of the tent and looked up. Far above, something moved in the clouds. A dark sharpship, silent, watching. Jack's heart sank. He turned to the girl. "What did I just get myself into?" She looked at him, scared, but not for herself. "For Galaxy," she said in a trembling voice. "You just lit a fire." Bang. Stars had always been quiet in Jack's desert, but now the silence was broken. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. Not with a strange alien child resting in his tent. Not with a glowing mark on his arm that still pulsed with heat. And not with a ship floating in the sky just far enough to be a threat, but close enough to be watching. He checked his old radio, no signal. Checked his satellite phone, dead. It felt like the whole world had suddenly been shut off. Inside, the tent, the girl, Siraa, that was her name, was curled up, breathing softly. She had told him little before falling asleep again. Just broken words. They want the flame. I ran. They kill whole planets. You touched it. Now they'll chase. You too. Jack didn't know what the flame was, but the more he looked at her, the more he realized. She was not just some lost alien child. She was something more, something powerful, something dangerous. Then, in the deep of night, the silence cracked. A sharp whump shook the ground. A red flash lit the desert sky. Jack ran outside and saw the edge of the sand dunes burning. A laser blast, silent, precise. They weren't warning him. They were testing him. He ran back inside and grabbed his small pack. Siraa! Wake up! She opened, her eyes quickly sensing the danger. They found me. Jack nodded. We can't stay. Can you walk? Siraa tried to stand but stumbled. Jack caught her. Then I'll carry you. He rushed to the truck and placed her inside. As he started the engine, another blast shook the ground behind them. A glowing crater opened right where his tent had stood. Jack's hands tightened on the wheel. They really want you. Siraa looked at him, her golden eyes calm now. They fear me. Should I fear you too? He asked. She looked away. I don't want you to. The truck roared across the dunes, heading into deeper desert, towards the old mines long abandoned by humans. Jack knew the way. He'd used them before to hide from sandstorms and smugglers. He hoped they would work against whatever this was. They drove for hours. The sky stayed black, but the stars were moving. Some of them weren't stars at all, but watchers. Silent, floating drones. One followed them from high above. Jack could see its red eye blinking. Siraa stared up. They won't shoot again, not while I'm inside. Why? Jack asked. They want me alive. She paused. They want you dead. Jack pushed the truck faster. As the sun began to rise, they reached the mine entrance. It was nothing, but a crack in a hill of red rock. But Jack knew what was inside. Old tunnels, deep and dark, forgotten by the world. He helped Siraa out of the truck and led her into the cave. Inside, the air was cool, safe. The sand muffled their steps. They moved deep, far from the light. Finally, they stopped in a small side chamber. Jack lit a lantern. We'll rest here, he said. You need water? I need time, Siraa whispered. She touched the wall. Her skin glowed again. Soft, blue light. This place is quiet. Jack sat down across from her. You said you were hunted. Who are they? Siraa's face turned dark. They are called the Collectors. They take special children. They use them. I was one of them, but I escaped. Why you? She looked him in the eye. Because I was born with something rare. A living flame. They say I can melt worlds. Jack didn't speak for a moment. Then he said softly, Can you? Siraa's eyes filled with tears. Yes, but I don't want to. Outside, a shadow passed over the land. The drone was gone, but in its place came boots. Quiet steps on the sand. 10 armored soldiers moved toward the mine. Their helmets clicked softly. Their rifles hummed, with power. Each had a glowing red visor. At the front, one spoke through a black mouthpiece. The child has entered the cave. Begin extraction. Kill the human. Inside, Jack stood suddenly. His gut told him something was coming. He loaded the old shotgun. He kept for wild animals. Company's coming, he said. Siraa stood too, her hand glowing. I'll protect you. No, Jack said firmly. You stay behind me. Let me do one thing right. Just as he said that, the rocks above the mine entrance exploded. Dust filled the tunnel. A bright red light poured in. The first soldier entered. Jack didn't wait. He pulled the trigger. The cave was filled with smoke, fire, and the smell of danger. Jack's shotgun was empty. His hands were bleeding from the sharp rocks. He had taken down one of the armored soldiers, maybe two. But they kept coming. Their red visors glowed like devils in the dark. He knew he couldn't win this fight. But then, everything stopped. The air turned still, as if the cave itself was holding its breath. One of the soldiers raised his weapon but never fired. His gun melted in his hands. The air around Siraa shimmered like heat over fire. Her eyes were glowing gold again, brighter than before. Her body floated just an inch above the cave floor. A soft sound came from her mouth like a song, but not made with words. One by one the soldiers froze. Their armor cracked, their visors turned black. And then, silence. They dropped to the ground like broken dolls. Jack stared at her, stunned. He had seen war before. He had seen weapons, machines, even alien tech. But this was something else, something ancient, something alive. Siraa collapsed to her knees, shaking. Her hands smoked with leftover energy. Jack rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" She looked at him with wet eyes. "I didn't want to hurt them, but they were going to kill you." Jack helped her sit down carefully. "You saved me. I always destroy things," she whispered, "even when I don't mean to." Jack thought for a moment. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small item, a gift from his mother long ago, a tiny plant in a glass jar. Desert moss. It grew with almost no water, just light and warmth. He placed it in her hands. "This doesn't destroy. It only grows." She looked at the green life glowing under the jar. Her lip trembled. "It's beautiful." "So are you," Jack said. "You're not a monster, Siraa." She didn't speak, but she held the jar close, and then she did something strange. She reached forward, touched Jack's forehead gently, and he saw everything. It wasn't like a dream. It was a memory, her memory. He saw her as a baby, surrounded by tall, glowing aliens in cold labs. Needles, wires, pain. Her scream echoing in a steel room. He saw her being trained to burn planets, to destroy cities, to end wars before they started. She was never given toys, only targets. And then he saw the moment she escaped. A bleeding, broken run through a spaceport, a jump into a stolen pod, a crash on a dead part of Earth. He pulled back, gasping. Siraa looked afraid. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to show you everything." But Jack shook his head. "No, I needed to see it." Now he understood. She wasn't just running from bad people. She was running from what they made her to be. The mine was quiet again, but Jack knew it wouldn't last. They would come back with more fire, more ships, more soldiers. And now that he had seen what she could do, he knew one thing clearly. If she died, the flame would go out, and the stars would burn in revenge. But if she lived, maybe she could change the galaxy. That night, by a small campfire deep in the cave, Jack shared food with her. She still couldn't eat most human food, but she enjoyed the warmth of the fire. She sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket too big. For her, she looked small. She looked innocent. But the light in her eyes could melt steel. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. Jack looked up at the rocky ceiling. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe because no one helped me when I was a kid. Maybe because you looked like someone who needed saving. Or maybe," he looked at her and smiled, "maybe I saw something in you that others were too scared to see." Siraa leaned her head on his shoulder. Jack didn't move. In that moment, something impossible happened in the cave. A human and a living weapon became a family. The desert was no longer quiet. It had started to whisper. Jack noticed it first during the early morning just before sunrise. The winds outside the mine carried strange sounds, like voices. Not loud, not words. Just soft murmurs dancing in the sand. Siraa was already awake, sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed. Her glowing hands hovered over the moss jar he gave her. The little plant inside was growing, slowly but surely. She's talking to the sand, Jack whispered to himself. He wasn't even surprised anymore. After escaping the mine and traveling through the rocky paths, they came across something unexpected. A village, half buried by sand and time. No roads, no signals, no signs of Earth tech. Only simple huts made from bones and dried cloth. People stepped out as Jack and Siraa approached. Humans, but not like the city folk Jack knew. These were desert people, old as the wind. Their skin was dark from sun, their eyes sharp like eagles. They wore masks carved from stone and spoke in whispers. One of them, a tall woman with silver hair and one glowing eye, raised her hand. "The flame walks with a protector," she said in a deep voice. Jack stepped in front of Siraa. "We're just passing through." "No one passes through the whispering dunes without being called," she replied. "You didn't find the child. The child found you." Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" "They were taken into the largest tent." Inside, strange patterns glowed on the walls. A circle of elder women sat around a fire that didn't burn wood. It burned blue sand. The silver-haired woman introduced herself as Ashali, the keeper of echoes. She looked at Siraa with calm eyes. "You are the last flame." Siraa said nothing. Ashali continued, "The stars made you to destroy, but fire that is wild can also warm, cook, and protect. We do not fear you. We wait for you." Jack was confused. "You knew she was coming?" "We felt the sky grow quiet," said another elder. "The universe holds its breath when destiny walks on sand." Siraa looked at Jack. "I don't understand." Ashali knelt before her. "There have been others like you, child. Long ago, but none survived long enough to choose their path. You may be the first." Outside, children of the tribe came to see the visitors. Jack watched from a distance as Siraa joined them. She was shy, quiet. But one of the little girls handed her a toy made of bones and wire. Siraa smiled. Jack smiled too. For the first time, he saw her be a child. But peace didn't last long. Ashali returned to him, face serious. "They are tracking her, by the marks she left on you." Jack looked at his arm. The lines still faintly glowed. "They're like a signal," Ashali said. "And they're getting stronger." He looked toward Siraa, who was laughing with the children. "She's just a kid," Jack said. "She didn't ask for this." "And yet it is hers to carry," the elder replied. That night the tribe performed a desert ritual, the song of flame and shadow. They danced in a circle, the ground glowing beneath their feet. Siraa stood in the center, unsure at first, but then the music touched her. She raised her arms and the fire danced with her. Blue sparks floated into the sky like stars. Everyone watched in silence. Then the wind changed. The fire went out. Ashali turned her head sharply. "They found us." Above the camp, red lights began to fall, small, fast, deadly. Jack pulled Siraa into his arms and ran. The villagers grabbed weapons made of bone and energy. Jack shouted, "We can't fight them with sticks." Ashali tossed him a strange rifle. "Then fight with this, it remembers." He didn't ask questions. He just fired. The invaders wore black armor again, but this time they weren't drones. They were hunters, faster, smarter, meaner. Jack held the line. He fought like hell. But Siraa stood behind him, hands clenched, shaking. "I don't want to hurt anyone again," she cried. Jack turned to her. "Then protect them. Be a shield, not a sword." She looked at the burning tents, the crying children, the elder bleeding in the sand, and then she stepped forward. Siraa raised her hands and whispered something in her own language. The wind stopped, the sand lifted, and the entire village vanished. Not destroyed, just hidden. Jack blinked. 1 second, they were surrounded by chaos. The next, they were standing alone in silence. The attackers were gone. Ashali gasped. She didn't just bend fire, she bent reality. Jack walked up to her. "You okay?" Siraa nodded slowly. I didn't kill anyone. Jack placed his hand on her shoulder. Then you did better than most of us ever could. She looked at him and smiled. The desert was calm again, but it was not the same. The whispering dunes had fallen silent, not from fear, but from awe. Jack sat alone on a dune, watching the stars. The wind brushed against his face, cool for once. Behind him, the hidden village still slept under the shield Siraa had created. She had bent the desert itself to hide them, and she had done it without hurting anyone. He should have been afraid of her. Instead, he was proud. But deep inside, he worried. How long before she couldn't control it? How long before the fire inside her burned too hot? Inside a small tent, Siraa stared at her hands. They were glowing again, not from rage, not from fear, but from confusion. She whispered, "What am I becoming?" Ashali, the elder, sat nearby. Her voice was calm. "You are becoming what no one believed possible. A flame that doesn't burn everything it touches." "But I'm still scared," Siraa said. "What if I lose control again?" "Then you keep those close who remind you who you are." Siraa looked toward the tent flap where Jack's shadow rested outside. Later that night, Jack returned to check on her. He found her wide awake, sitting by the fire. "You're not sleeping," he said. "I don't think I dream like humans do," she replied softly. "When I close my eyes, I see stars falling." Jack sat beside her. "I dream of Earth sometimes, of trees, rain, but now I only dream of fire too." She smiled a little. "You're changing. Maybe we both are." Suddenly, the glowing patterns on her skin pulsed faster. She gasped and held her chest. Her body began to shine. Jack grabbed her shoulders. "What's happening?" She was sweating, shaking, her eyes wild. "It's coming out. I can't." "Hold it," Ashali ran in. "She's entering the next stage. The flame is evolving." "What do we do?" Jack yelled. Ashali's voice shook. "Hold her hand. She needs something real, something human to keep her grounded." Jack reached out. "Siraa, look at me." Her body was shaking with energy. Light poured from her skin, melting the ground beneath her. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not letting go." Her hand gripped his tightly. And then, everything went white. Jack woke up lying on the ground outside the tent. The air smelled like lightning. He looked up and saw her standing alone in the sand. Siraa was glowing softly, like a sun ready to rise. But her face was calm. She turned to him. "It's over." "What happened?" "I didn't explode," she said with a quiet laugh. "I focused. I remembered you. I remembered the plant. I remembered the children." Jack sat up. "You held it back?" She nodded. "No, I didn't hold it back. I controlled it." Later that morning, a stranger arrived, a bounty hunter. He didn't come with an army. He came alone, dressed in black armor, his face hidden behind a glass mask. His weapon buzzed with energy. He walked into the village like he owned the sand. Ashali tried to stop him. "You do not belong here." He pushed past her. "The child is marked. She belongs to the collectors, and I've been paid." Jack stepped forward, standing between the hunter and Siraa. "You'll have to go through me." The bounty hunter raised his gun. He fired. The blast hit Jack in the leg. He fell, groaning in pain. Siraa screamed. But this time, the scream wasn't fear. It was power. She stepped forward. Her hair floated around her like fire. Her hands burned with blue flame. The bounty hunter pointed his gun again, but it melted in his hands. His armor cracked. The mask shattered. Behind it was a scared face. He fell to his knees. "Please, don't." Siraa raised her hand, then stopped. She lowered it slowly. "You're not worth destroying," she whispered. He dropped his weapon and ran. Jack lay on the sand, bleeding. Siraa ran to him, tears falling from her glowing eyes. "I didn't kill him," she cried. "I saved you. But I didn't become a monster." Jack coughed a smile. "Told you. You're not a weapon. You're a miracle." She held his hand tightly, and deep inside her heart the fire burned steady, Not wild, not cruel. It was warm now. Controlled. Hers. Jack's leg was healing, slowly. The desert people gave him herbs and bandages. Siraa stayed close by his side, helping him walk. Every day, she was learning. Not about her powers, but about kindness. She smiled more now. She laughed when a sand lizard crawled over her foot. She cried quietly when an old man gave her a handmade necklace and called her daughter of flame. But far above them, the stars had started to move again. At night, Siraa sat alone on the rocks and stared at the sky. "Something is coming," she whispered. Jack joined her. "The stars?" "No. What hides behind them?" Jack sat beside her. "Tell me." She hesitated. "Do you remember the flame I told you about? The one they say you carry?" She nodded. "It's not just power. It's a piece of something. Older than any galaxy. It was hidden inside me when I was born. My creators didn't make it, they found it." Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked up. "They call it the seed of suns. It's not just energy, it's memory. Of stars that died before your Earth was born. Of knowledge that could break time." Jack blinked. "That's inside you?" "Yes. But only a small part. Where's the rest?" She turned to him. "They're coming for it." The next morning the sky changed. The sun turned dim, not by clouds but by shadows. Massive ships covered the sky like metal whales, silent, watching. The whispering dunes looked up in fear. Ashali ran to Jack and Siraa. "We must run." But Siraa stood still. "No, they'll never stop chasing." Jack clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Ashali shook her head. "No, there is another way." She pulled out a small stone cube, pulsing with soft green light. "This is the key. It will take you to a place older than war. A place called the Vault of Sparks. There you'll find truth. And a choice." Siraa held the cube. It responded to her touch, glowing bright. "How do we get there?" Ashali smiled. "The desert will open for you." That night, with Jack leaning on a wooden staff and Siraa leading the way, they crossed into a forbidden part of the desert. The wind grew still. The stars above blinked, then disappeared. They were not alone. From the sand, a giant gate rose. Made of glass, stone, and light, symbols moved across its face like liquid fire. Siraa stepped forward. "I remember this." She pressed the cube into the gate. It opened with a deep, ancient sound, like the sky itself breathing. Inside was a staircase, a long one. They entered the Vault of Sparks. It wasn't a building, it was a memory. The walls were filled with moving lights, like frozen moments from other galaxies. Creatures, wars, planets being born, suns exploding in silence. Jack stared, in awe. "What is this place?" Siraa whispered. "This is where they learn to fear us." In the center of the chamber was a crystal, floating above a pedestal. Inside the crystal swirled light and shadow, fighting, dancing, alive. Siraa walked toward it. "This is the rest of the flame," she said. "The seed. The full truth." Jack stood slowly. "What happens if you take it?" She looked at him with soft eyes. "I stop running." She touched the crystal. It shattered silently, turning into pure light, and entered her. The room shook. Above them, in space, the collector ships began to move. Their weapons turned, their cores activated. They had found her. Inside the vault, Siraa fell to her knees. I remember everything now." Jack rushed to her. "What do you see?" She looked up. "I see every war they started, every planet they destroyed, every child they turned into a weapon like me." Her eyes burned with gold fire. Her voice changed, deeper, older. "They don't just want to control stars, they want to silence free will." Jack helped her stand. "Then we stop them." She nodded. But we don't do it with fire alone. Jack looked at her proud. How then? She looked into his eyes. With hope. Outside, the gate of the vault opened once more. But Siraa didn't walk out as a scared child. She walked out as something new, something balanced, something galaxies would remember. The moment Siraa stepped out of the vault, the universe felt it. All across the sky, stars dimmed, as if they were holding their breath. The desert wind stopped. The whispering dunes fell silent. Above, the collector fleet began to descend. Black, ships shaped like blades, their engines whispering like ghosts. They had followed the flame to its final home. And now, they came to take it. Jack stood beside Siraa, still leaning on his staff, still wounded, but he wouldn't leave her side. Whatever happens, he said softly, we end this together. Siraa nodded. Her eyes were glowing again. But not wild, not dangerous, controlled, calm, pure. The ship sent a message across the sky in a voice cold as metal. Return the seed, surrender the host, or we will erase this world. Siraa stepped forward. No. There was a pause. Then the sky turned red. They came fast. Hundreds of them, machines, weapons, warriors, all dropping down like rain. Jack and the desert tribe stood ready, but they knew it was too much. Too many. Ashali whispered to Jack, we cannot win this. Jack looked at Siraa. Maybe we don't need to. Siraa raised her hand. She didn't shoot fire. She didn't destroy. She spoke. In a voice that echoed across the sky, deep and full of life, she said, I am not your tool. I am not your weapon. I am not your property. She held out her hands and a soft light poured from her chest. It rose into the air like a sun being born. The collectors froze mid-flight. Their ships stopped. Their weapons turned off. Because inside, that light was every face they had ever erased, every child, every soldier, every innocent being. Their crimes were now being shown to the stars. The entire galaxy was watching. Other systems, other races, other leaders. Broadcasts across space picked up the memory wave. On distant planets, aliens stared at their screens and saw the truth, that the collectors had built their empire on stolen lives and broken worlds, and now the galaxy knew. The collector leader sent one final message. What do you want? Siraa answered simply. Silence. Not destruction, not revenge, just silence. And they gave it. The ships turned around. They left. Jack couldn't believe it. You didn't fight. You made them see. Siraa smiled, tired but calm. I lit a light in their darkness, and sometimes that's louder than any war. He chuckled. Well, that's one way to stop a galactic invasion. Ashali came forward and bowed. You have brought peace, child of flame. Siraa looked at Jack. No. We did. A week later, Siraa stood at the edge of the village. The sand was soft beneath her feet. The sun was warm. She no longer wore the tattered cloth of a runaway. She wore a robe made by the villagers. White, gold-lined, peaceful. She turned to Jack. I could go now. The stars are open to me. Jack nodded. You could. But I don't want to be a queen of fire. I want to grow the plant you gave me. I want to learn. I want to live. Jack smiled. Then stay. Or come back. Whatever you choose. Siraa took his hand. I choose family. Far above, the stars shimmered, not in fear, not in rage, but in peace. For the first time in ages, the stars were quiet, because the girl they once feared had chosen kindness, and that silence was louder than any scream.